G'day guys, how are we going? Well, when I head out into the Vic High Country during winter and especially during snow season, this is just some of the extra safety gear that I pack. So let's check it out. Okay, so this is just the gear that I take purely for safety reasons during winter and during when that snow season's on up here in the Vic High Country. Just the extra gear that I do pack for these particular times. So we'll start around the corner here, and look, some of this stuff will certainly double up that I take on sort of most times of the year as well. But over winter time, you know, you would not leave home without a chainsaw at any time of year, but certainly over this time of year, you know, where the ground's all sopping wet, all nice and soft, and you know the trees are generally loaded up with extra snow with the extra weight of the canopies, and you know trees can come down, you know, at any time. So need to make sure you've got yourself a good chainsaw, you know, got all my fuels in there, spare chains, all that sort of stuff in there, you know, just in case, you know, you need to clear a track and to get yourself through. So chainsaw is an absolute must any time of year, but especially this time of year when the trees are all loaded up with that extra weight. Then we come into this one here now. This is a water blind, and you're probably thinking, well, why would you want to pack a water blind during the snow season? Well, it's not so you can go ploughing through the snow, that's for sure. You know, you're not going to put on the front of your four-wheel drives and go ploughing through the snow, because if the snow's that deep where it's up over your sort of bull bar, well, you're not going to get through anyway. But I pack one of these particularly if I'm going on a trip and I know there's going to be some river crossings involved. So you might be up high, you know, playing around in the snow, having a cracking time. Then you might head down into some of the low country and drive through some of the low country to find a camp spot, and you've got to do some river crossings. Well, this time of year, 9 times out of 10, the rivers are going to be a lot higher than what they would be at any other time of year. So I pack one of these and take it with me every single time, especially over winter. Just for that odd time you come across a river crossing that, you know, might be a little bit deep. So you want to put that water blind on the front of my full drive there so I can get myself through. Then I move into the necessities here. Now this has got my snow chains in it, in this box here. And I take these on every single snow trip. Now there's all my snow chains in there. I take those on every single trip. Might not use them all the time, but I'd much rather have these, and I know I've got them, just in case, you know, the snow gets a bit too deep and you can't get myself through. So snow chains are going to come to the rescue there for sure. So I'll make sure I take those. And then here, this is just a little tarp, and tarp's very handy for when you've got to put your snow chains on, because you've got to lie down under your full drive. And if you haven't got a tarp, or you're going to be lying down in the snow or you know, mud, whatever, and you're going to get covered in it, you're going to get very wet in freezing sub-zero conditions. So grab yourself a tarp and put that in the back of your full drive there. You can even probably put it in the box there, and so it's there all the time. And that way you're going to stay nice and dry, and that's the thing when it comes to putting your snow chains on out there in the snow. Then we move along to the next one here. Now the recovery boards. Now these are certainly very well known for being used in beaches and sand and deserts and that sort of stuff, you know, for getting yourself in a recovery. But I've got the treads here, and look, these have been great, and I take these again during that snow season, because you can certainly use them in the snow. You know, if you get yourself stuck there or you lose a bit of traction, these are fantastic to maybe get yourself up and gain that bit of attraction to get yourself going down the track. So pack all that sort of gear there, and then we get into some of this stuff here now. Long handled shovel, again very handy any time of year, but even so this time of year when the snow is on, because if you find yourself getting bogged somewhere, the snow's too deep and it's all up around your tyres and you need to, you know, clear some snow, well, a long handle shovel you really want, not so much a short one, just so you can get right under your full drive there to clear that snow away from your tyres, and then hopefully you can, you know, give yourself a bit of traction there so you can get yourself through and continue on down the track. Then I get into some more of the cutting gear. So I've got my axes here, little axe there, and my log splitter there, so I can make sure I get nice toasty fire going over night time and keep myself nice and warm. So have that sort of gear. Then some more warm gear here. You know, a pair of gloves, keep the old mitts nice and warm, because these are going to get fairly damn cold when you're out here playing around in this white stuff. So pair of gloves, and then certainly a beanie, even though I wear the good old Cobra pretty much all year round, but I'll take a beanie for some of these cold times, and especially when I jump into my swag, you know, over night time, might chuck the old beanie on my head there just to keep the old noggin a bit warmer while I'm sleeping there over night time in my swag. And then I get into some of these. These are pair of gaiters. Now these are fantastic if you're going to go off walking in the snow. Now I can try and show you. I'll just put it on first down here. And then they just wrap around your leg like so. Now these are absolutely great because if you're going to go traipsing off through the snow, or even if you're doing a recovery, you know, and the snow's fairly deep and, you know, it's going to be up around your knees there, these are going to be fantastic. You're going to stop the snow getting down inside your boots and getting your socks all sopping wet, freezing cold, and your toes start getting cold as well. So these are great just for keeping that bottom half of your legs nice and dry, and again stops that snow getting down there inside your boot and making your little toes all nice and cold. So I'd certainly pack those for this time of year. And then I get into this little box here. Now this is just a tiny little box here that I keep, you know, so everything stays nice and dry. And I've got some cotton wool balls there, which I'll show you in another video a bit later on what I certainly do with those. Yeah, and then there's my flint, you know, for getting fires going, to get a campfire going of a night time. Again, I'm going to show you, do a video on those very shortly on how to use one of these properly. You know, got my matches there. Look, again, matches, they're great for pretty much most times of year, but during this time of year where the air's moist and everything's damp, well, sometimes the matches just won't work. So get your fire going. That's where this is certainly going to come into play, so you can make sure you get yourself a fire going. But I'll show you a bit later on down the track what I certainly do with that and how that sort of all works. And then your fire lighters, you know, make sure you've got yourself plenty of these things. You know, because again, you know, your wood's pretty damp and wet and these will burn for ages. So get yourself a box of these, especially if you're going to come out and camp out here, you know, in the snow over winter time. Make sure you've got a good heap of fire lighters to help you get that fire going. And then we get into this one here, the antifreeze that I put in my diesel fuel. Look, I won't go into all the detail now about why and how and when I do it. I've made a number of videos, but I'll put a heap of links down in the description panel below. Have a look at those videos there as to why I make my own fuel. And it's really important, if you've got a diesel fuel four-wheel drive, that you do look at either an additive, and, you know, as I say, you know, there's a lot of the Alpine service stations around the high country. You know, they've got that Alpine mix there at the pump now. So you can certainly, you know, put that inside your fuel tank there. But again, you know, going to the reasons there about why I still mix my own but I top up with the Alpine fuel at the service stations. But check out some of those videos. But really important, if you've got a diesel full drive, that you look at some sort of a additive when you're going to go up there. Doesn't matter if it's for a day trip. You know, if it's a day trip, still mix my own fuel. But especially if you're going to camp overnight, you really need to take that into account when you're going to be camping if you're at elevation in amongst the snow. Diesel motors, yeah, they don't like cold at all. So take that one into account there. And then, you know, make sure you've got all your navigation devices, maps, with the area that you're going to go into. You know, because you might find yourself going down a track somewhere, you know, the snow's too deep, you can't get yourself through, or you're going to come down. And as I mentioned before about trees coming down, well, you might come around a corner and there's a massive tree down and your little chainsaw's not going to be able to cut it. So what are you going to do? Now you've got to turn around, you've got to find some other way to get around to where you want to go. So make sure you've got all your navigation devices, whether it be maps, GPSs, whatever you guys are using, to help you out just in case you've got to reroute your trip and find another way around because of those few things that I mentioned with snow's too deep and big trees come down, that sort of stuff. And then this one here, the last one, I'll make sure, even if it's only going out for a day trip, I still make sure I've got a nice woolen warm blanket in the back of my patrol there when I go out for a trip, because you just never know. You know, you might only be planning for a day trip, but you might end up finding yourself, something might go wrong, you might get stuck and you might find yourself having to stay a night out there. So you want to make sure you're going to be able to stay toasty warm. Even if you're inside your full drive, it still could be fairly cold. So, you know, a blanket doesn't take up a lot of room at all. But I know if I have to use it, I'm going to stay toasty warm inside my full drive there. So this is all safety gear, extra safety gear, based around this time of year. And look, there's a heap of other stuff, you know, your recovery gear as well. But that's, you know, you need to make sure that that's all in good working order, and you know, you've got everything there that you're going to need. And the winch on the front of your full drive is probably another big one. You really want to make sure it's working. It's this time of year during winter and snow season. Tracks are wet, greasy, slippery, and a heap of snow around. You know, this is the times where you might find yourself, you know, slipping off a track somewhere, and now you've got to recover yourself. And the last thing you want to do is go and pull that winch out and you find it doesn't work. So check that sort of stuff well before you leave home, you know, to make sure your winch is working and you've got a recovery gear all sorted out. So there you go, guys. There's some of the extra safety gear that I pack in my full drive when I'm heading out in the Vic High Country during winter and during that snow season when all the fluffy white stuff's lying around. It's a great time of year, but fair dinkum, just get well prepared for it and, you know, go up here and have a great time in the snow. So if you've got some extra items that, you know, you'd like to put to the list, throw them in the comments down below, and that way we can all learn from everyone else. You know, what other safety items do you put in your full drive, or how do you prepare, you know, for a snow trip to make sure you're going to go up and have a good trip and a safe one. So there you go, guys. There's my gear. Let's see what you guys have got, and I'm going to pack all this gear up, and fair chance I'll see you out in the bush someday.